The sound of the mob on January 6th chanting Nancy Pelosi, of course, was Speaker of the House on that day and a target of the mob's rage as they ransacked her office, some brazenly calling to kill her. In a documentary from Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra, we saw how the then Speaker, along with the other congressional leaders, gathered in a secure location, urgently calling military and law enforcement to try to end the violent siege.
We're being told it could take days to clear the Capitol.
And joining us now for her first interview since Donald Trump was indicted for the events leading up to that day, Speaker Emerita, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi of California. It's good to see you. First of all, how's Paul? How's your husband?
Thank you for asking. He's making progress. I said to him yesterday, I think millions of people around the world are praying for you. Do your therapy so that you can get well soon. But he's making great progress. Thank you for asking.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So you have a singular experience of January 6th. As you read the indictment, what was your reaction and what jumped out to you?
It's heartbreaking for our country to have a president of the United States with this list of charges against him. And I just want to commend the January 6th committee, the House committee, bipartisan committee, Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney, and all the members of the committee and the staff for the work that they did. They laid a foundation of facts, about facts and the law, and made a criminal referral to the Justice Department. That was the end of December. That was in December of the end of last year, 2022. And we didn't know what we couldn't know. It wasn't our role to know what the Justice Department would do, if anything. So when it became clear that there would be criminal charges made, it's interesting to see how similar they are to some of the charges recommended by the January 6th committee. And I commend, again, the committee. I'm so proud of them, their courage, their bravery, and the courage, really, of all of those who are making the case now. Of course, the former president is innocent until proven guilty. No one is above the law. And the assault that they are making on the rule of law in our country is really a sad thing. I'm sure it would bring tears to the eyes of our founders.
The current Speaker of the House, your successor, Republican Congressman Kevin McCarthy, he responded to the latest indictment by posting on the social media site formerly known as Twitter, quote, "House Republicans will continue to uncover the truth about Biden Incorporated and the true two-tiered system of justice," unquote. He went on from there. What's your response to Speaker McCarthy trying to refocus this to Hunter Biden and President Biden?
What I would say is, and to remind the American people, that on the night when it was very clear to the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives and in the United States Senate that there was an incitement instigated by the President of the United States on the Capitol, on the Congress, more importantly, on the Constitution of the United States. They saw the danger that we were in. They saw the lack of response from the president for not sending the National Guard. We pleaded for him, and Chuck Schumer and I kept pleading with him to call off his troops, but to send in the National Guard. They saw that. They saw the danger. They made statements about it that recognized the involvement of President Trump, and then so many of them, the majority of them in the House, voted to reject the peaceful transfer of government, accepting the numbers that the vote of the American people, as demonstrated by the Electoral College vote. It was heartbreaking of all the tragedy of that night, and then to see them say, okay, we're not supporting the peaceful transfer of power in our country. That means more to me than any of this nonsense that he's engaged in now.
We've also seen a similar response from many of the Republican presidential hopefuls. I want you to take a listen to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis talking to Fox.
One of the reasons I'm running for President, Harris, is to reconstitutionalize the federal government and these agencies that have become weaponized, the FBI, the DOJ, against political opponents. A D.C. jury would indict a ham sandwich and convict a ham sandwich if it was a Republican ham sandwich.
This is largely the response from Republicans in the House and Republican presidential candidates, with the exception of Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson, and Will Hurd, attacking the Justice Department instead of talking about the allegations made in the indictment. Well, what's your response?
It's not my response. I'm not responding to them. I'm speaking, as I always have, with or without them. The rule of law is central to a democracy. The fact that the former president was always attacking the rule of law in our country, and now these guys are parroting that. Shame on them. Shame on them. But again, let's not talk about them. Let's just talk about our Constitution, our country, our respect for the rule of law. And by the way, while he was undermining the rule of law, he was also undermining a pillar of our democracy. Part of the First Amendment to the Constitution, freedom of the press. So if he can diminish the role of the press in the mind of the people to know what the facts are, and he can diminish the role of rule of law in our country, we're on a path that is not a good one for our democracy. So let's not spend too much time on them. Let's spend time on where we need to be as a country. Let's spend time on the greatness of Joe Biden's administration and what he's done for the country, creation of jobs, cutting unemployment in half, and the rest. And you know, you bring up a political question by talking about their political candidates for president. If you want to talk about that, let's talk about good things. Let's give people hope. But there is a moment of tragedy in our country in these days, and actually days leading up to now, because there have been other indictments. The former person who held the office of President of the United States had no respect for the office he held, no respect for the rule of law, no respect for free press in our country to tell the story, one side or another. I don't always like the way the press talks about me, but that doesn't mean that should diminish the freedom of the press to speak. So we're at a place, we have an opportunity, a real opportunity to save our country and to do it in a unifying way, to be respectful of people who may have voted for him, may have been, for whatever reason that they did. And that's their vote and that's their right. But they should not be dragged into the gutter with him in terms of his undermining the United States of America, our democracy, our rule of law, our Constitution.
Given all your concerns about what Donald Trump has done and all of his behavior and transgressions, et cetera, but also given the note you just made, the comments you just made about unity, about trying to move forward, about trying to unite the country,
Yeah.
I wonder what concerns you may have, if any, about the fact that a former president of the United States is going to be put on trial in at least 3, if not 4, different venues, and what that will do to the country. He is supported by a majority of Republican voters, and I'm sure that as a patriot, you are concerned about what these trials might do, even if you support the accountability and the principle of equal justice under the law.
I know how thoughtful you are about this subject, and I appreciate your question. But just because somebody has been president of the United States doesn't give him a license to break the law. When he became president, we said, he's the president, we want him to succeed, let's see how we could work together. It became clear that many of us had more respect for the office that he held than he ever did. And so because he disrespected his office, disrespect the rule of law and the rest, doesn't mean that he should not be, anybody, I'm not even talking about him, I mean anybody, should not be having to answer for their actions. So let's not say, well, you know, no. Yes, we know. We know that there is a body of knowledge, of facts in violation of the law that have to have the test of the court system, innocent until proven guilty. But if we become a country that says, well, it might offend the people who voted for him and it might be disunifying. No, let's unify around the truth. Let's unify about what our country stands for and the rest. Let's unify about those people who are willing to take risks in the political arena that may not be popular, but are right for our country, rather than saying, well, let's give him a pass because he's, for whatever reason has convinced, whether people don't want to pay more taxes, or whether they don't like LGBTQ people or women or people of color or newcomers to our country, whatever or they just may have a philosophical view of a lesser role of government, which is to be respected. But it does not a license to commit crimes and go charged.